Oh man, Lola. Dang. What's good with you? Lola. What's up? What's up, Matt? Lola, I gotta call you guy. I'm sorry, I forgot to call him. I was supposed to call him in the morning. My bad. What's good, everybody? Listen, if you don't see this live right now, you can see it later. Good to see you. Took a shower. Of course I did. That's I'm in a hurry. I was at the gym, bro. What's good? What's good? GizzyCredit. Hey, you're in trouble. I know. What's good with YouTube? I got 3 people. Oh, thank you for the like. Thank you for liking and sharing the video. What you need is just a change of plans. And time is money, you know, get that cash. Just get it fast, get it fast. GizzyCredit. 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 What is good? Let me see. Where is that song at? Right here. Let me put that into mode. Thank you so much. And YouTube be always YouTube Live. Let me tell you something about YouTube Live. YouTube Live is no joke. A lot of people tuning in to the YouTube Live. Thank you so much. It's only for your benefit because you always getting you guys are getting the know-how of everything that has to do with credit. So anyways, a lot of you also are not only wanting to be credit repair customers, but a lot of you are doing credit repair as a business and want to learn more. So shout out to you for continuing your education. John's about to get on the line right now. Shout out to everybody. Bro, I'm about to put that video up for the event. Go ahead. Go do it. Go do it. Go do it. Go do it. Go do it, Matt. Matt does loan modifications. Anyways, let me call up John. For those of you who don't know me, I go by GizzyCredit on YouTube. We help people with their credit for the last 10 years. Okay, we have a lot of experience and expertise in positioning you to do what you want to do with your credit. Although we take on credit repair customers on a daily basis, a lot of you can't afford the for us to do it for you. So we came out with a $99 system, and this is for you. Okay. Right now, let me get John on the phone. John's my partner, business partner, and kicking this off. Yes. We are kicking it off. John's about to be like, yo, what's good? I'm like, yo, we're going to do this. We're going to do this, John. Sorry, I had to do the intro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I had to do my intro. To let people know who we are, what we do. I'm gonna do another little intro of I'll let you do your own intro, but just this is the one of the big videos that we've had a following for a long time with our $99 do-it-yourself credit repair system. I was just letting people know that although we take on credit repair customers on a daily basis, that a lot of people, they say, hey, I don't have that type of money right now with me, and I can't do it. Do you take payments? And even if they can't afford the payments, we offer the $99 do-it-yourself credit repair system. So This is for you. Whoever is on YouTube, if I could comment where you guys are from, so I can give you a shout out. Please don't forget to like the video and share it. That goes the same way to you people on Facebook. Anyways, John is the mastermind of it all. He's the one that comes up with the systems. He comes out with the credit repair system, with the credit card funding system, which we will have another video about. He also is the brains behind the professional do-it-yourself credit repair system and the professional credit card funding system as well. We're going to each have an individual video for those videos, but today's video is going to be on the $99 system. John, what's good? You want to introduce yourself? Go ahead.
So, I mean, as far as, the systems are concerned, well, let me go back. My name's John Brucker. Me and Gizzy, as I talked about before, me and Gizzy have been working together, in our own capacities for, I don't know, 7 years plus now at this point.
Yeah, about to be
it's
8.
been a long time. Over
Yeah.
the course of time, credit repair has evolved. But the bottom line is that us being able to help clients hasn't changed, and our process hasn't changed. And one of the good things about our process and our service and everything that we offer individually, like Gizzy was saying, we would much rather help the client. Just to be clear, we would much rather do the work for the client and see through, the client through from beginning to end with the goals and everything of that sort. So we prefer to help the client, and most people prefer to have us do it. But like Gizzy said, over the course of time, some people just they can't afford our service, and there may not be an opportunity for them to be able to afford our service, meaning they may not come into or be able to save the amount of money they need to. This is the most ideal alternative to that situation. We set it up for that purpose. So in a previous cast, we talked about the fact that, we came up with these systems for that purpose. Now, again, so many people, because with the good success stories we get from individual clients, we also get them from people that turned it into a business. It was not designed we came out with it for this purpose, because back, in 13, 14, 15, when people were coming to us and they couldn't start with us, they would go out and they would go to a cheaper option, which unfortunately would put them in some cases, in a lot of cases, in a worse situation when they came back to us after they were able to save up the money. And we said, you know what, look, if the client can't start now, and if the client is a DIYer, because that's what this is about, it's about somebody that doesn't mind doing it themselves and empowering themselves and teaching themselves how to do it. Well, they don't need to teach themselves. They essentially just need to read it and follow what the system says. But in that period of time, we came out with it to help the consumer, because we said, you know what, at the very least, they'll be doing it the right way, that we won't run into any issues where they get put in a bad situation where maybe they're not as knowledgeable and they're being thrust into situations that maybe they don't entirely know what's going on, i.e., what we talked about before with the vague aspect of credit sweeps, and people were coming back to us unaware of what occurred, et cetera. So we came out with this for a multitude of reasons. One, to give the consumer a situation that they could dig their teeth into it doing themselves with a workable system. This is the system that we use. It's just the paper system. We do it online. We have a much broader process than this, but the basis of this system, as far as how it gets accounts off, it's very detailed, it's very specific, and then it tells you exactly how to do a roadmap. It explains to you with the content exactly how these accounts are coming off. It's not, Section A. I know the question is going to be, and I'm sure this is going to be a question there. This is not based on Section 609, 623, 605, et cetera. This is not that. You are not just going to keep sending the same thing over and over and over again endlessly until your fingers fall off. The reality is that there is a very clear understanding of how, and it's explained in the system, of how accounts attach to your credit report and how accounts come off your credit report. It's very clear. It's very understandable. And if you read it, which if you decide to buy it, it's obviously encouraged. You'll get a very clear understanding of how they're coming off, how they're going on, how you need to get them off within the context of the steps that we provide. It comes with 5 steps. In the context of those 5 steps, they're all accelerating, meaning they work within the confines of the system and everything like that. And, honestly, we get nothing but positive feedback in regards to the system. The one caveat that we do have sometimes, like I had said in a previous cast, is that many people get these, they just want to jump right into it, and they don't necessarily read it as thoroughly as they should. Now, we're talking about like 15 pages here. Okay, the whole system is like 30 pages with the templates and such that go along with it. The content of it is like 15 pages, and it reads very easily.
Jay, let me interrupt you for a little bit, because there is more than us starting that system, by just people who can afford it. We did more than that, because remember that at that time we were getting people stopping the process, people in Georgia who were doing chargebacks, and we was pissed. We was getting mad, and we were like, yo, we got to come up with something, to show you guys that this is not an easy task, dealing with fixing your credit. And there was a time that we got so mad that we were like, yo, why don't they do it themselves? And then that's when we started talking about, let's come up with a system, let them do it. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think there was a multitude at that time, because again, this has been a long time. You're talking about
2014.
That's why. Well, it was. I mean, the system came out in 2014, but the idea, stemmed before that, before we actually put it together. But that's what I'm saying. Credit repair has kind of evolved over that period of time, right? But the one thing that hasn't is how these accounts go onto your credit negatively and how they can come off, your report, the same way, which is all detailed in that. And, regardless of the ebbs and flows that go on in the overall, in the overall credit repair business, the reality is that, there's so many people that need help and need assistance, and they just don't have a place to go that they feel 100% confident. And the good thing about this particular system is the fact that it comes with endless support, right? We have a support team that answers emails from 8 to 9 at night Eastern time. We have a forum on the site, which, is nothing but, purchasers sharing their experiences and then requesting, asking questions, getting responses, so on and so forth. So this isn't something where we're just like set it and forget it. We're not just like, listen, go, here's a system, this is a gift from us, go deal with it and figure it out yourself. It's if you have any hiccups, you have any nuances, check in with us. We'd prefer you do that. The objective of this is to be successful. Although we would prefer to help the client. If the client's going to spend money and they're going to dig into it, we want them to be able to do it correctly. And most importantly, we want them to be able to understand what it is they're doing or why something didn't happen. The broader purpose of all this stuff is empowering. And there's a lot of knowledge that comes along with this. And most people that purchase it over the years, which has been a lot, they walk away. And again, what I was saying earlier, was that a lot of people have turned this into a business as a result of just the $99 system. And that wasn't the intention, although, obviously since it works and it works well, it's allowed them to parlay it into that. Now that wasn't what it was designed for, but at the same time, if it's allowed people to make money as a result of it, I think that's great. Yeah. It's a slower moving process, right? It's
a get your feet wet type of system.
It's going to get the results that the client needs, right? It's a follow-up. It's a process. We get emails constantly from clients. Yeah, I started with the credit repair system, and I got pretty far along on it, but I just got tired. I didn't want to finish. Can you guys finish up? It's not uncommon. People there's a reason why you hire somebody to do credit. Your credit. There's a reason why you hire somebody to cut your lawn. There's a reason why you hire a plumber to do plumbing. You do all that because that's not your expertise. But at the same time, if it's something small, you'll try and do the plumbing. If it's something small, you'll try and handle your own mortgage, sell your own house potentially. I wouldn't advise it, but it could happen. The point I'm trying to make is that the system works and it's been proven time and time and time again. But if you're somebody that isn't good at seeing things through, then I would just say, it's not worth it to just dig in and then not really finish it. I just don't see the purpose of doing that because you have all the outlets to make you successful, meaning the forums and the support. It's there. It's, there was a guy that bought this is just a side note. There was a guy that bought the system like, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago. Okay. And no feedback whatsoever, right? Yeah. He must have emailed over to you to ask a question. You forwarded it over to the support, and he asked a question about his report. And he said, look, I've tried to dispute this now I've been trying to dispute this and I can't get this account off.
Okay.
Right. And the natural response from the support is always, we'll send us over the last template you sent out and send us over a copy report. Let us see where everything is not lining up, where we're missing. And this is kind of the rub that happens sometimes. He sent it over. Well, first he responded with, wow, you guys actually respond. And I'm thinking, why? Number one, why would you buy a system where we're advertising support where you don't actually believe that there's support involved? And number two, we went through the system, or we went through his report after he sent everything over. And in doing so, he hadn't even tried the system yet. So this is what I'm saying. Like this is not some kind of a scam, guys. This is legitimate. This is a legitimate system. We've been selling it for 5 years. Correct. It works. Correct. And there's been people that have just been giving away copies. I don't know why, because it's a commodity. Because I've had people who have emailed support, which takes a lot of audacity, but have emailed support asking questions, and they didn't even purchase it.
So, hell nah.
Yeah, no, I know. And
what?
What I'm saying. But just think about the frame of mind, though. When you're that person, you email support asking a question, you don't even buy it. You got it for free. And you're trying to utilize the free support. It's crazy. But the point I think we're all trying to make here is that is that there's a lot of people out there that tout credit repair systems, and a lot of it is kind of smoke.
Correct.
Right. A lot of it is more based on technology. Some of the more advanced systems are more based around technology and the idea behind, this automated scenario that you have to work less, et cetera. Right. Which doesn't mean it's more efficient. It doesn't mean it has any clue about what it's doing. It doesn't mean it's functional whatsoever. There's other systems that tout certain specific, very specific, ways of disputing, but don't provide any auxiliary scenarios. And anybody that's ever disputed before knows that, a one-track scenario doesn't work, I don't think, in any walk of life, right?
Correct.
So, this is a situation where the way it's worked out, the way it's put together, the way it's phrased, the way it's communicated, the way it's, the support's provided, everything, it's catered around the average consumer, right?
Even if someone has never done it before.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's catered to any level of education. There's no educational requirement to be able to walk in this. You don't need any previous experience in this line.
It's not like, we dumbed it down, but we're not telling people, look, you dumb, so here are these words that you'll understand. No, it's still professionally made.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Professionally.
No question, but I'm saying that it was done in such a way so that anybody could make it work, right?
Correct.
It was worded and the content was put together and everything was done so that anybody of any level of education, understanding, intelligence, etc., can prosper if they decide to utilize it and they actually see it through. Now, again, it's a process, whether, it's a process that we have figured, our process is broader and it's, we have much more specifics in how we do it and what we do. And it's a much more exact scenario, but this is exactly what the average consumer would want to use. And it's, again, we get nothing but positive feedback. So I think the one key to understand is that the support that we provide, it's there for a reason. I can't stress this enough because people go and buy it and then they come back 6 months later when they're 80% done, or 9 months later when they're 50% done, and they're asking why, when they've spent the last 3 rounds stuck in the same area, and it's because there was one of the areas included in the system that they didn't include in the template was missing, and it was very obvious to pick out. The support is there. We wouldn't offer endless support if we didn't believe in the product, right?
Correct. Yes.
What product do you know that? I don't think there's a product I've ever heard of that comes with endless support.
No, and it's only a one-time fee.
What's that?
And it's only a one-time fee.
Yeah, it's $99 flat. That's all you pay. There's no ongoing cost for the support. Correct. The support is baked into the $99, which is why it's $99, right? There's a little bit of a premium baked into that for the endless support that could go on for 2 months for a client. It could go on. We've had clients reach back out years later when they're helping other clients with it, right? So it's a situation where it's there, and the people that actually step forward and buy it, who are not only empowering themselves but committing that they're going to finish it themselves and do it their own way within the context of our system, then not only are they getting a crash course in how this works, but they're actually learning on the run, and they're learning the right way, which is key. It's again, I want to repeat, this isn't like us. We get this question a lot. Is this 609, 623, 605? Is there anything to do with fraud?
You have to see the countless videos that have a whole bunch of views promoting the 609 letters. And by the way, those people who watch those videos, at the end of it, they, like John will tell you, people, the way that they come to us, they've gone the cheapest of the cheapest route. They've gone to someone who says they could do the credit repair. They don't know how to do it. They found some cheap letters. They send them out, and it's all these 609. Okay, how about 609? Can you repair 609? Yo, it's not only that, right, Jay?
That's not even a basis of it. That's not even a mitigating factor in it. Again, there's no walk of life that I'm aware of. Okay, and I've been in business a long time. There's at least from a business capacity, or you can probably generalize it. There's no walk of life where one option is a successful game plan. I'm sorry, there's a reason you provide a backup plan. There's a reason there's a cliche called a backup plan, or the primary plan. You set yourself up with situations that budget for these kinds of scenarios. Now, to think that only one way is going to work, this is what we get a lot with are pertaining to frivolous. We get a lot of questions. Does your system, do you get letters back saying it's frivolous? No, you don't. Because it's a constantly evolving scenario, all detailed in the system, right? It's a constantly evolving scenario. You don't get letters relating to frivolousness, et cetera, if you're doing it right. And this is what the support's for. So you should never get it. We don't ever get emails now anymore about the frivolous scenarios because people that have bought it, they realize that they don't see those kinds of letters because it's an ever evolving system. Each dispute, you're constantly making adjustments and you're resubmitting. You're not just taking the same thing and sending it back in, holding your breath and waiting 29 days. That's absurd. And honestly, I'm not here to talk bad about anybody else, and I'm sure there's other people that sell systems like that focus predominantly on the 605, 623, et cetera. But the reality of the situation is, I don't know if they provide endless support because I don't know how you can provide it. How do you troubleshoot out of that? You know what I mean? Like if your goal is to just exacerbate, let's just say section 623, which is a legitimate section.
Okay.
And that's all you're sending is section 623. How is it that you troubleshoot out of that if it doesn't work in the first round? You know what I mean?
Correct.
Like, I don't even know how you would troubleshoot out of that. I don't know how you would get to a next stage if you're just submitting the same thing and you're constantly putting the onus on the Bureau and the Bureau rules it out in the first dispute. I don't own any of them. I don't know. So this is just a question that constantly comes on top of my head because art is 5 steps, but it's an evolving situation. It's a constantly evolving. You're making adjustments after each dispute relating to how the report responded to that last dispute, and you're going back and you know what I mean. So,
but is this an art form, you think, or is there an art to doing credit repair? I mean, have we come up with that with the $99 system?
I think that with the $99 system, I think that it's a system that the way we put it in the $99 system, it works. The way it's been packaged and put together for the $99 system, it can work for anyone, right? I think there's an art in the way we do it, right?
Oh, of course, yes.
There's an art in the way that we do it because, we've been doing it for however many years.
Oh, that's why we do it online. And with the $99 system, you only do it by mail.
Correct. But there's other nuances above and beyond that aren't, that we don't include in the $99 system. But that's why we tell people, if you get the $99 system, just be patient. You'll get where you want to be. This isn't like we're just passing you off trash. This is a part of our broader system. It's just a part of our broader system that isn't on the accelerated side. So the reality of the situation is the general premise behind how it's coming off is exactly the same premise that we use on our broader system, our professional system. It's the exact same premise. You're just doing it all entirely by mail, which can slow things down. There's a couple other nuances that are included, but it's still the same efficiency. It just may take a little longer. And sometimes when things are done solely by mail, it can slow things down. So as long as somebody comes in with the objective that they're going to get it done and they're going to use the system and they're going to follow it to a T, which we always say, and they're going to read it and actually comprehend it and then read it and comprehend it and then implement it and use the support. I mean, I can't think if I was a consumer, I always constantly try and put myself in the position and the thought process of the consumer.
Yeah.
And I say to myself, if I was a consumer, because there's so much smoke out there, right? Especially relating to credit and debt. It's just riddled with smoke, right?
Yes.
Just nonsense and games and shoots and ladders and all kinds of ridiculousness. So I say to myself, how can you hone in on a company or a product that, is legit, right? And, obviously the fact that we do a lot of the stuff for clients specifically, and those results are proven. But then the other thing I say to myself is, I can't imagine that any company would provide endless support if they didn't know the product worked, right? Because why would you do that? Like if somebody said to me, look, I'll give you endless support on this product as long as you need it, until you're successful with it, as long as that takes, I'd be like, I'm in. Because who would do that?
Correct.
Right? Who would do? And I'm not trying to be sarcastic right now or I'm saying to myself, like the only reason psychologically you would ever want to offer it with endless support would be because you know that it works and you believe in it. Otherwise, it would be crazy to, right? If it was a mess, you'd be getting calls and complaints every 30 seconds. You wouldn't be selling them for 15 minutes, right?
Correct.
Or
not only that, but we'll be online. People would trash us online, and we bolster our results like nobody's business. I mean, we
That's
over there,
so
we show off.
5 years into selling the system, and people couldn't be happier with the ones that bought it. So that's what I'm saying. And again, it's just again, you try to do your best to try and be as transparent with the consumer. Try to let the consumer know that just like when we're doing it, that this system is reliable, it's accountable, it works, the support is there for you whenever you need it. And if they decide to move forward with it, then they know that it's there for them to kind of tie into. I think though that some of the questions that we also get, can they remove any kind of account? Yes, because our process doesn't there's no relevance relating to accounts. We talked about this in the last cast, is that there's no relevance. There's more psychological relevance between a BK and a collection, or a BK and a child support. It's more psychological relevance than it is actual removal relevance. When you're going in and removing it the way we remove it, we're kind of detaching it and suppressing it from the file. I mean, it could be we're using the same process to get a BK off that we're using to get a collection off. It's the same thing, whether it's a $2 million mortgage or a $200 collection. It's the same idea and the same process get implemented. So any kind of account can come off.
Yeah, that's what the question I have right now from DAHJ Dodge. I think that's how you pronounce it, Dodge, something like that. Is the $99 special good for late payments? I personally never missed a payment, but have one from October on a car I co-signed, and I'm sick. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, you see, sometimes it's off. You hope that the person that went late was in a bad position and they were just being reckless with somebody else's stuff like that, but it happens.
I know.
So here's the deal, and this is what we tell people always: if there's 1 or 2 or 3 lates on the account, it works. You're good, right? You'll be good. I mean, it may be a situation where you may see the account come off one bureau, and on the other 2, it may remove the lates. But going in and trying to individualize late pays and such, it's very difficult. So anything beyond 1 or 2 or 3. Typically speaking, you see the entire account come off. If it's 1, you typically will, you're fine getting the 1 off over the course of the regular dispute process and the broader process. But I think as far as, if somebody had we've had people come through that, they got 10 or 12 lates on the account that's been open 3 years. I'm like, that's 30% of the account. It'd take forever to do that. I mean,
or student loans with a whole bunch of late payments.
Yeah, well, I mean, students, but a delay pays again. It applies evenly anywhere, right? So if it's 1 or 2 or 3 lates, then if it's if
9,
if you're rolling, because typically what happens with the student loans is that they don't report till 90, right? So if you came out of forbearance and didn't know, which happens all the time, they come out of deferment and they don't know it because they don't have it written down, and the loan companies don't send you anything when you're coming out of deferment or forbearance. So before you know it, you miss 1 payment and 2 payments. So now the bureaus don't typically report for 90 days. So you'll see on a lot of these, reportings on school loans and such, it starts at 90 because they don't report until you're 90, as because of all the times they had to correct things when it was 30 or 60 due to a lack of communication. So when you get to 90, it's it kind of rolls from there. So obviously to get to 90, that's 3 by itself. And then from there you're rolling out. So I would say if you're beyond 1 or 2 or 3, the assumption would be that the account's going to be removed. Now, that's not to say it's not possible. I'm just giving you specifics based around averages, and that's the average scenario. If you were going to try and attack late pays, whether it's 1 or 2 or 3, you'd have a reasonable degree of success in getting the lates off and maintaining the account. But anything over 3, more than likely the account's going to come off.
But how about what we tell our customers all the time when they have open late payment on a credit card, that there's a percentage that the creditor can close the account. Is that correct?
Yeah. So that's a good point to bring that up. So if you have any of your negative accounts on open unsecured credit cards, we always tell our clients that there's a small chance. I mean, it's with Capital One, it's high. I don't know why, because Capital One focuses their entire business and they're much more aggressive than anybody else on the credit card side, because that's where they make a ton of their money, if not all of it. When you go to dispute lates on open unsecured cards, they will historically close them at a pretty aggressive route. I mean, for a typical credit card company, it's typically anywhere from, we typically say 5 to 10%, meaning 1 out of every 10 times, but sometimes it can be up to 15%. Capital One is, I'd say 50% of the time. I mean, if it's an open account and they're going to get removed, which happens a lot, they'll say, "Look, you know what? We're going to take our ball. We're going to leave. And if you want to open an account with us, you got to reapply." And that's exactly what they do. They'll close the account and it'll encourage you to reapply, which forces them to put the account back on the report, and then they gain the leverage. So I would say in most cases, if that's the only account that's open and that's the only issue that you're dealing with, come to terms with the small possibility that the account, if it isn't owned, this is only on unsecured credit cards, right?
Correct.
Auto loans, mortgages, etc. They're secured debt. So I mean, the actual bank has collateral against those things, like, you know, pink slips and actual deeds that they own relating to that. So they're not losing their interest in that debt no matter what, whether it's on the credit or not. So I mean, but when it's unsecured, you know, obviously the lender is strictly based upon, you know, your word at that point, and their leveraging against you is almost entirely your credit report, right? They can choose to take you to court, but you know, that's a decision they make at late stage charge off way down the road. So, you know, if you're going to do it, just be careful if it's an open unsecured credit card. And if you do, just know that there is anywhere from if it's not Capital One, I'm meaning all other lenders, it's anywhere from 5 to 15% chance they could close it if you're disputing it. Now with Capital One, it's extremely higher. So just be aware of that. And if you are aware of that, then you'll know walking into it, you won't have any surprises.
So it's like a catch-22 where you damned if you do and you damned if you don't.
Well, not necessarily, because again, I mean, if you're talking 1 out of every 10 situations, if I said 5 to 15%, now honestly, it's typically about 10%. That means 1 out of every 10 accounts you're disputing that way, you may have that problem. Okay. But in a lot of cases, what they'll do is they'll call you, right? Because they have to rule. If you've ever seen a dispute get submitted, it doesn't matter how you're disputing it. The creditors always send a letter out first to the consumer that tries to rule out fraud, because a fraud dispute gets handled totally different from a traditional dispute, meaning not claiming fraud, right? So when they'll call you when you submit a dispute on any unsecured credit card account, right, they'll call you, and if they rule out fraud, they won't close it. But most people just don't answer their creditors, right? Correct. So obviously, if we're playing along those lines, you know, you want to prepare them in the event that they're not going to answer the phone and rule out that you're not trying to claim fraud, or you're not suggesting it. There's nothing even remotely close to that suggestion, because they have to rule it out. Then, you know, if you answer for it's a non-issue, but if you don't, you run the risk. So, I mean, it's a risk that should be aware, but again, it's isolated on a very small percentage to one product type that in a lot of cases isn't normally the common denominator. I think the common denominator where you see a lot of lates are typically on larger stuff like the mortgages, right, on auto loans, because there are some of the heavier debt bills that, you know, for individual consumers that kind of bog them down a little bit. And 1 month, if it's a little short, they're going to be the ones that they can't cover, right? So that you don't typically see it on, you know, and Capital Ones, I'd say historically, most people, it's not a 1 or 2 or 3 late. I mean, you see it randomly, but normally people start going late on Capital Ones because, you know, for the most part, when you're walking into Capital One, you're doing so because you have alternative credit, right? And they start you with a very small limit.
Correct. Right? The alternative credit, meaning you don't have the best credit. They're the easiest lender. They give credit to everybody.
Right. So when you go to them first, you're doing this with the idea you're just trying to establish some unsecured credit. You don't have to come in with some money to secure it against, right? So you're talking $200, $300, $400 sometimes, right? The minimum payment on a $200 card is like $20, right?
Correct.
So I mean, look, I understand there's some people that can't afford the $20, but I think on a wide scale, the clients that come to us that ultimately end up going bad, it's because they know it's not getting them where they want it to be quick enough, right? They thought they'd open that up, it would help them.
John, how do credit card companies come up with the minimum payment, like that number?
It's 2.5. That's actually a good question too. It's 2.5% of the outstanding balance, or in Capital One's case, they have a minimum threshold set. So if it's, let's just say for argument's sake, it's $1,000 balance. Typically speaking, that would be $25, right? 2.5% of that's $25. Okay? Correct. With only 1% of it going towards principal and 1.5% of it going towards interest. Okay, that's how it's always set up. You have a $25,000 card and it's all or $20,000 card, it's maxed out. You're making a $500 payment, of which that 2.5%, only 1% is going to principal, 1.5% is going to interest. So that's why they say very little of your actual $500 payment on that $20,000 card is actually going to actual principal to pay it down. Most of it's going just to acquiesce the interest cost to the bank, or the interest that they want to obviously receive on that particular account. That's why they make it minimum and they load it heavily in that area. But when it comes to smaller accounts, though, you know, you're dealing in a situation where If it's like a $200 or $300 card, and 1.5% of that outstanding amount would only would basically equate to like $5 or $6. They have a minimum that they have to meet there. So normally, depending on the card issuer, it's not less than like $20.
Okay.
And it's always, just to be clear, it's always set on 2.5% of the outstanding balance, unless it's a 0% balance transfer. So for argument's sake, if you took a $20,000 balance and rolled it over, okay, to a 0% balance, a 0% balance card, your payment on that, your mandatory payment would just be the 1% of the 200 of the 20,000, which would be $200 rather than $500. Okay. Just so we understand each other. Now you can pay the $500, and obviously the difference will go towards principal because there is no interest on a 0% balance transfer promotion, right?
Correct. Yes.
But when there is, it just gives a good barometer so you can see how the payment arrangements change. It's just based on a percentage. That's it. And it's a flat percentage across the board. It doesn't deviate.
But a lot of people don't know that a lot of these people, they want $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 limits, not knowing that if they get it and if they get maxed out, that they're going to have to do the numbers. And a lot of people don't know how to come up with that number. They just say, what's my minimum payment this month? If they get maxed out.
I mean, I think that's, but that's kind of the purpose of why we're doing a lot of stuff. Just give pieces of information and educational stuff that people can kind of back into. I know we talked before and we went in a lot of depth the day we talked about the mortgage stuff, different products, income ratios, FICO scores, etc. And this is just another avenue where people just need to be clued in, right? And yes, you're right. People get this. Well, you know how it typically works, in all fairness? Typically speaking, somebody says, yeah, I want to get funding. And they, they say that they're going to raise $100,000 in credit cards, right? And they're going to use that for real estate. The problem is it's amortized in such a way it's unsustainable unless you're going to flip the property in 15 minutes, right?
Yes.
Because we talked about this before. If you borrow $100,000 through credit cards, your minimum payment is $2,500. I mean, if an average renovation to flip takes 3 months, right? Roughly. Yes. I mean, I'm speaking on average circumstance. You've lost $10,000 almost in 3 months just in an interest expense with paying no principal down. Right. And that's not even taking into consideration any of the details behind the deal. So an average interest expense on a $100,000 mortgage over 30 years at 3% is $300. So that same 3 months you paid $900 relative to almost $10,000. It's insane, right? I mean, it's insane how much different it is. So the point I'm trying to make is that people come to us with that dream at first because they don't understand the depth to it and the lack of sustainability behind it.
Correct.
And then once they realize that that's not going to get them there, then they start spending on it. You understand what I mean? Like they'll try, even if they get 50, 60, 70, they realize they can't do real estate with it, right?
Correct.
So then they'll try to do something else, some sort of an idea that doesn't really pan out. And they've already broken that seal of the spending on it, right? So they're already paying interest on it. And then they turn and start spending on it because whatever.
I mean, they could use it at Home Depot.
What's that?
They could use the car for Home Depot purchases.
No, for sure. They can use it anywhere. It doesn't negate. They can use it whenever they want. The point I'm trying to make is if you were doing it strictly for real estate, and that was your primary means of funding, right? To get into a deal, to do the construction, to buy the materials, etc.
Yes.
My example sticks. I mean, if you're totally into a project for $100,000, the minimum payment on that, whether it be Home Depot buying all the materials and you paid all the laborers and the property itself, you paid through your other card somehow, some way, and you're into it for $100,000. Your interest expense every month, just minimum, is $2,500. On that same $100,000, if you borrowed it from a traditional lender or somebody even remotely that's amortized over 30 years, right? Because credit cards are not amortized that way. They're not even close to amortized that way. And by amortization, I mean how long that the payback is spread out. So a mortgage over 30 years, $100,000 at 3.5% is $350 payment roughly. So over 3 months, you're spending $9,000 as opposed to $10,000. It's just basic math, though, right? So, I mean, it's just not sustainable to be able to do it that way. And I think that's the problem we normally run into with clients is that they read somewhere on a credit board that you can open up $100,000 in credit cards and somehow become a real estate billionaire. And the reality of the situation is that have people done it? Probably, right?
Correct.
Do I think that it's less than 1%? 100,000%. I'm sure it's less than 1%. The other 99.5%, right, did not get those cherry-picked opportunities that individual did that was able to do that, right? And it's a very unique situation, unique to their situation, that they were able to figure out how to work out. But I would not advise, because we've seen the other side of it time and time and time and time and time and time again. Plus, I've been doing real estate for 15 years. I'm very clear on the financing costs that go on. It's just not sustainable. So I know we're getting off on a little sidebar here outside of the system, but I mean,
these are the questions that we have, and these are the things that come up whenever we're doing one of these lives. Sorry that we're veering off, but it's also an educational
for sure,
for you guys that have never heard of it before. You guys get to experience it on this cast. So I have other questions. I did the self removal. Do you offer just inquiry removal? Dear credit, sir. If so, what is the cost?
Yes, we do offer inquiry removal, and it's case specific, right? It's typically not a flat cost. So
correct.
You'd have to email in, and we can give you.
No. He's asking if we have a system for the inquiries.
Oh, not that we're selling.
Not that we're selling. No. Okay.
No.
Okay.
At this time.
And then we have another one, boss. You should have a discount.
What did he say? I'm sorry, you cut out.
He said, boss, you should have a discount.
I don't Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm just.
You said we should have a discount. I don't know what more of a discount we give.
I don't know where to go with that, because I don't know where we could discount it even further. I mean, it comes with endless support.
Are you talking about that? Hold up. Let me get to him.
You're entitled to the support for 99 years. I mean, I don't know how much more you could discount it than we're discounting it. I mean, I just short of giving it away. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm not understanding the question.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's asking about us doing the credit repair ourselves, that we should have a discount. I mean, we're very, very fair with our price that we see. Again, we get the worst of the worst. We get the files that have gone through hell, and then they come to us.
We're the last stop, because we were the first stop. And then they got a price, and they didn't like the price, and then they went to everybody else, and then we're always the last stop. So we're typically the first stop, and then we're always the last stop, and then we're the ones holding the bag till it's done. And then we're the ones that actually show people through to their goals and get them to where they need to be, and actually show them the credit repair is real, and it's actually a functional art that actually does work, and there's a professional element to it where you can communicate with the clients and actually have their best interest at heart, so on and so forth. But to take it a step further, when it comes to the work that we do, I mean, there's an actual price per account that we utilize that is stacked relative to how many total negative accounts we have. So this isn't numbers we just pull out of thin air, right?
Correct.
And those formulas and those numbers, those multipliers, are based on the amount of time it typically takes us on accounts of that amount.
Correct.
You know, like there was somebody that came to us the other day that had 100 inquiries, and what did he have? 3 negative accounts on each bureau. So you're talking 9 negative accounts and 100 inquiries. And he got a quote at $850.
Damn! I mean, I can't say damn on YouTube. Sorry, but hold on.
And that's the way I was thinking, right? Because I'm thinking, all right, the inquiries will be able to knock out relatively quickly. I'll weight it more in favor of the accounts. The guy wrote back and gave a question mark, 850, like it was an outlandish number. And I wrote back and I said, you have 100 inquiries. You have 100 inquiries. I said, even if you had an 850 right now, nobody would finance you with 100 inquiries, because it looks like somebody got a hold of your file and is shooting it out everywhere. I said, you're untouchable with 100 inquiries. Nobody is going to want to touch your file.
Right. And
you're telling me that 850 sounds outlandish to you for a life-changing scenario, when, by the way, 850 for us is a very, very good price. So
I'm sorry you had to go through that, John.
No, but you know what? But listen, it just goes back to, you know, because what ends up happening is a lot of people want to work with this, and we want to help everybody. Please understand that.
That is true.
We want to help everybody, but you guys got to understand, we're not gonna rip off our nose to spite our face. I mean, we're not going to take on work that we know it's going to take a certain amount of time to get done, and then we're not going to financially harm ourselves because it's going to take longer than the consumer expects, because of a number of variables that they don't see when they go through their own file. They just want it done. Right. So we've tried to split out payments. We've tried to do all these other scenarios. And unfortunately, through years, this isn't like 1 year. This isn't like one client. This isn't 2 years or 2 clients. This is close to 10 years and 10,000 clients.
Correct.
Okay? That is a large enough group of individuals to be able to make a very educated decision on what the proper way of handling these situations are in our best interest and in the consumer's best interest. And although we've determined that the monthly payment fee, and I think we've talked about this on every single one, isn't ever in the client's best interest because the client goes nuts at about month 6, right? I mean, they start going parabolic about month 6.
Correct.
The reality is for people that are having trouble managing their credit, getting that payment out of the way up front is the best thing that could happen for them. Correct. Because then they don't have to worry about it until they're done. And honestly, for us, because we know we're going to do what we need to do and we're going to get you where you need to be, it takes all that off the table and we can run free. We don't have to worry about, all right, is this guy going to pay next month? Is this guy going to pay the back end? I said it every cast we've done, and it's true. We would have people back in the day. We've tried every single payment arrangement, like I said. Correct. One of them that we've done was where we split up half and half. And we still do that sometimes with very good, strong relationship referrals. But for the most part, we don't offer it. And the reality is that because of we don't offer it more because of situations like this where people would pay the half up front, and when it came time to the back end, they'd go get their house and they'd be like, yeah, you got to wait until after I close on the house. All that money's accounted for. It's like, no. No, I waited 45 days to get paid the back end when I was done. I mean, you signed a contract. It's thinking like that unfortunately we can't control. We can't control Correct. People's mentalities, and in some instances, people can be short-sighted and overwhelmed with an emotional experience, and that's fine, and we get it. The problem is we're not going to continue to put ourselves in situations because, burn me once, shame on you. Burn me twice, shame on us, right? I mean, it ends up being on us at that point. And through all the
what did George W. Bush say? Burn me, burn me once, shame on me. Burn me 2 times,
shame on you.
Whatever.
It's the other way around, but no, that's true though. It's true though. I mean, if we keep exposing ourselves to situations that we've learned historically that have been problematic, that would be ridiculous. And in all fairness, it's not just for us. Honestly, it's difficult for certain consumers to budget for that, right? And I understand that. And they're not the ones that bother me when we would split up payments, and when we finished early, they wouldn't be able to pay on the back end. They'd pay when they could. Like we just got it done quicker than they expected. They didn't have time to save up the back end. And they would pay when they had it, right? I'll get you 200 next week, in 2 weeks, that's fine. It was the ones that were going out and knocking out goals with the credit we just fixed that they weren't paying the balance on. So, I mean, it's situations like that where we got burned that it's just, unfortunately, it's not something we're comfortable with, going forward. And we set it up this way. So, I mean,
I hope you guys understand that.
I think we price as competitively as anybody if you really break it down to what you're paying in the end of the day. Because let me just finish this point for a second. So let's just say, for argument's sake, we charge you $1,000 to clean up your credit and get to all your goals, right? Whether it be the house or the auto loan. Just in an auto loan alone, 3 percentage points on a $30,000 car, right? Let's go back to a previous cast. The average new car is $38,000. Correct. 3% in interest that we save you. Let's say you go from, let's say 5, because it's not uncommon. Let's say you go from 10%, we get you an auto loan of 4%. That's 6%. Do you know how much that saves you just in the first year? That saves you like $4,000 in the first year. Then times it by 4 years, you're talking 16, 17, you're talking $20,000 just on an auto loan over the life of the loan. And we'll get into arguments about, what it's going to cost to get in. Not to mention, we don't charge you for that auto loan. We don't charge you anything additional for lining you up with the mortgage finance. We don't charge you with setting you up with funding. This is all included. You're paying one fee and you're just walking away and letting us get you.
John, I think these people, they want us to charge them more. I think they see value in when you charge more money.
I believe it or not, I think we just heard we should offer a discount. So I don't know how much more we can discount the service. Look, I believe in people getting what they pay for, right? You know what I mean? If somebody pays a lot of money and they trust us to get it done, I believe that we should get it done. And look, when you're dealing in a situation like this, you develop relationships with the clients that you're helping, because it's what happens. You ultimately end up, you could throw out a client's name right now that we have, and I could probably detail their report for you, off the top of my head. And we got a lot of clients, which I'm very grateful for. But I'm just saying, I'm so into each client's report. I could tell you what it is just off the top of my head and every client's name. And the reality is that I don't want to have to nickel and dime them at every turn, because then that doesn't look like a sincere situation, right? Like if you're like, okay, I got you done here on the credit. Now I want to go hit you over the head for 10 points on the funding. Now I want to hit you for 3% on your auto loan. By the end of it, you're just as bad as the people in the dealership that we complain about, right? Correct. So if we can get them done and it works within the broader process and it helps to grow the business organically by helping people and getting them sustainable, I think it's the way it should be. Same with this funding or the credit repair system. If we're not doing it, we're putting you in the position to where you can do it yourself. You can do it right.
Correct.
Right? This isn't smoke. I mean, we're not here like, this isn't like we're trying to sell you in this conversation on trade lines from another vendor so we can get commissions and from business credit from another vendor where we can get, it's not what it's, this is all done in-house. This is the people you will deal with. These are the people you're talking to right now, are the people that you will communicate with throughout the entirety of the process with us. That is how it works. There's no outside bodies that go on in this credit repair process to get you from point A to B than the two people right here. Now, granted, on the credit repair side, the support and the foreman stuff, I mean, it's all still coming back to my tutelage anyway, right? And my frame of mind. But the reality is, the situation is, these are the two individuals that you're going to be dealing with throughout that entire process. And I don't know if there's other situations like that. I know a lot of these, one of our clients from before, Eric Love, he's our client now, but he was on one of the earlier podcasts. He had said he was with another company who I'm not going to say, who charges a monthly fee, and they're larger. Correct. And he said that every time he calls, he gets a different person. He doesn't have any point of contact. He doesn't have any relationship with anybody.
You could go to that video. I'll post a video here of that live podcast where he gave us a testimonial, but I'll post it right here. That's later. Yeah. Jay, we have another question, and we have something that is like recent, that is like a fad. Is that what they call fad? Something that's like trendy? Okay. Have you heard this one? Does blocking LexisNexis help with disputes, far as making it harder for the credit bureaus to verify accounts? I know you've heard that before. You've heard maybe everybody who some people contact me. Oh yeah, you gotta block LexisNexis. You gotta block this. You gotta block that.
It's a flavor of the month.
Is that the flavor of the month?
What's that?
Is that the flavor of the month?
That's the flavor of the month. I mean, it's been the flavor about the last 6 months, but it started to taper off. I feel like, and it goes back to a previous cast that I had that we had done together, where I had said that every credit board pops them out. Some video pops them out. They think they found a corner and that they can cut, that somehow going to get them to where they need to be. And it's the same process. Correct. It's the same exact process. I couldn't tell you how many clients came to us after they did it, and they lead in with, I just want to let you know, first and foremost, I got LexisNexis and so much. And the other one, whatever the other one, it's called
what?
There's another one. It's LexisNexis, and there's another one that whatever video or person, whoever pushing it, there's two of them, and I don't know what the other one is.
Not Navient. It sounds like Navient, though. It sounds like
it's something like that, right? But it's irrelevant to me. It's entirely irrelevant to me. But they come in and be like, "Well, I just want to let you know that we froze LexisNexis and the other."
Innovis.
Right. Yeah. So
I think Innovis. Yes. Somebody in the YouTube
we froze it, and I'd say, listen, then explain. I don't understand if that's the case, and why you're still sitting here with this problem, right? If that was, and I'd always write back, I'd say, listen, I don't need you to freeze anything. I don't need anything frozen. Obviously, you're sitting in a position right now where somebody told you to do it, it didn't work, and now we're here. Here we are now. You're with us. So if it was I go back to the same nonsense about, is it bad to dispute online? You lose all your rights as an individual. It's like, I just don't know why there needs to be these. It ends up being a sales pitch. Now, I'm not saying that. Look, I don't know enough about that. We get public records off all the time. I think you posted tons of videos about it.
Oh yeah.
And that's the purpose of the LexisNexis, right? They're trying to claim. The claim is that if you freeze it, that they're not going to report the information to the bureaus, and somehow, some way, it's going to come up. Right?
Okay, that's John. But check this out. Isn't that more for people who didn't pay their the rent? What do you call it?
You talking about LexisNexis?
Yeah.
No, LexisNexis is a public records database. It's all public records. So essentially, like court documents, court order, like bankruptcies, public records. Yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, if you were thrown out of if you were evicted, sure, you probably want to utilize that if you're a landlord, a larger landlord. And you didn't go down to the actual courthouse to pull your records like that. Yeah, you could do it through LexisNexis. Honestly, LexisNexis is enormous. It's like a government setup database that is enormous, right? I mean, it runs all public information, all public record information. So the point I'm trying to make, though, is that there's always these like gimmicky things, and that gimmicky stuff is always like it's the same. It's all the same idea, and it's not necessary. Whether it works or not, it's just not necessary. And I couldn't tell you we don't get a lot of calls from people or emails from people ever. I mean, this all sprung up like maybe a year ago tops, right?
Correct.
And it started to gain some traction about 8 months ago, and then it just fizzled out. And normally that's how they work, right? So somebody pushes it, and they keep pushing it, and it gets some traction, and then all these people buy into it. And then what ends up happening is, it goes back to my point earlier to tie everything together. After that first and second and third tranche of people that comes through and try, and they realize it don't work, then they just start trashing it, right?
Correct.
And it doesn't last. So go back to the conversation about the repair system earlier. We're 5 years into this, selling these. Okay? We haven't had to change anything.
Oh, I still get people to contact me. Does the system still work? I'm like, bro, nothing has changed.
But that's what I'm saying. This is the stuff that gets sold, because if you think about it, when you're selling smoke, when you're selling garbage, you got to figure out a way to waft that odor, right? And the only way you do that is by telling them it's the next best thing. Here's the problem. The algorithms of the bureaus have not changed in a decade. Same algorithm, same way of putting it on as they are taking off. Why do you need all the smoke?
But even
if you know how to do it, why do you need all these smoky things, all these gimmicks, these things you're calling hacks, all these other little
that's for disputing, right, Jay? But how about when they got hacked? Does that have anything to do with the dispute process? Remember when they Equifax Experian got hacked?
What they did though, when there was a hack, they shut down the online disputing for like 3 weeks.
Yes, they shut down the online disputing.
But they still took on disputes.
Correct.
And they were hacked like on a like a serious level. You know, this wasn't like some guy trying to freeze, instruct 100,000, United States citizens to freeze their LexisNexis. This was like major league, right?
No, this was 130 million people. It's not like that, right? 127?
Yeah, it was. I think it was more than that, but I'm sure everybody was affected, and I don't think they even know the extent of the damage, quite honestly. But and nobody will ever know, because they don't know. Because again, the whole system's run algorithmically, right? So it'd be very difficult for them to sort all of it out. And if they told everybody, they'd lose it anyway. But
correct.
I mean, people would go nuts if they ever found out where their information is sitting right now as a result of that. So, and what do? They turn around and say, I'll give you $175. That's how I'll give you back. I'll give you $175. Let's call it even. So, I mean, that seems fair.
Well, they make their own rules. Is that correct?
Say that again?
They make their own rules?
Who, the bureaus?
Yeah.
But that's why I keep trying to say. It's the same. Like if you ever go back, and I don't want to digress too far on this, but if you go back after the whole thing with Equifax happened, right? The guy's CEO of Equifax, in speaking engagements prior to that, he repeatedly said, "My biggest fear is a hack." Right, and he would say that in speaking engagements. Right, he was publicly noted as saying that because he knows that there's no human interaction on his whole entire company. Is run on an algorithm. Name another company that's run entirely on algorithm. All these bureaus is an information reporting system. That's it. They report information, right? It just so happens to be very important, top secret, personal, secure information of us as citizens, right? And as credit individuals. That's all they're doing. It's just, they know that that's how it is. So do I think he changes rules? No, I don't think they would have the capability to change rules. That's why I'm saying that if they were going to somehow, some way change their algorithm in a very large way, it would be impossible because there's millions of disputes that go on every day, right?
Yeah.
Even if they shut it down like they did for 2 or 3 weeks, that wouldn't be enough time to change your whole process of how you report. It wouldn't be enough time, and you wouldn't be able to swap out a new system with an old system. And there would have to be so many other bank-related changes that would have to conform around it before they made that change. That it would be like moving. It would be like doing a U-turn. Right.
It'll stop financing. It has to stop financing for a couple of days.
But that doesn't happen. There's no such thing. Banks can't stop lending money for 1 day, for 1 minute. Right. It doesn't happen. That's what I'm saying. It's not going to change. Right. It's not going. There was an article that I posted on the Credit Life Facebook today. That was Bernie Sanders, where he said he wants to take away another great Bernie quote that he wants to take away the credit reporting from being public companies. He wants to make private companies. He wants to make it a public registry that does it, so there's no fee to I mean, he's the same one, by the way, that said that he's going to get rid of all, the trillions of dollars of student loan debt just out of nowhere. So, I mean, it just gets more and more whimsical with more and more of the stuff that comes out as far as who he's catering to. Because clearly he's catering to the uninformed, right? The uninformed meaning the millennials that just don't get involved because they don't understand the system yet. He's not catering to anybody else that understands how it works. There's no way you could switch that out. The amount of time it would take and the transition that would have to happen in order to switch from any other system other than the one we have set up would have to be wide swath, meaning the banks would have to get involved, the dealerships, the auto dealers. I mean, just think about that.
Everybody.
It would be, there's no way it can happen. I mean, they'd literally have to shut down finance in our country for a really significant amount of time. And they'd have to prepare leading up and they'd have to be prepared coming out. So the point I'm trying to make is there's no need for all this nonsense, right? All this smoke and all these gimmicks and stuff. I mean, honestly, I don't really understand the ideology. I mean, I feel like because I've dealt with so many of them, I have a pretty good feel for the consumer in our country, right? Just the average consumer and how they think. Yes. I don't understand the ideology behind always trying to find like the shortcut, regardless of how much damage you do, right? Like when some guy comes on and he starts pitching you nonsense, and then you have another situation that has worked consistently with results forever. Why would it seem smart to find the guy that just came up out of nowhere, right? Immediately became an expert on something, is pitching a gimmick for all intents and purposes that has never been proposed before, and not realize that there's a strong likelihood that that's going to disappear in the very near future, right?
Correct.
And you say to yourself, why? Because it's not normally cheaper. You understand what I mean? It's not because it's cheaper. It's normally the pricing on these. If you look at them, some of these gimmicks and nonsense, the one-hit wonders. I mean, they're not cheap.
No. I mean, I've even gotten the people who say, we do credit repair. My connect used to work for Equifax.
Yeah,
and he knows the ins and outs.
There it is. Yeah.
And he knows the ins and outs of everything. And he can do you.
That's one of the regular ones, right? That's how you know. That's how you know it's a game, right? When you start hearing that, when you start hearing the. I have a friend. I mean, oh my goodness.
I got 3 people on my team that have worked for Equifax, and they can get everything removed in such and such time because they know how to. Hey, listen, if it works, I mean, I'm not knocking nobody's hustle because that's a hustle right there.
Stop. Come on. You know that doesn't work. Get out of here. Look, I'm not saying that whoever they work with, may get some accounts removed here or there, but it's not because they have a friend that works at Equifax.
Correct.
I mean, the clearance you have to get to work in those organizations is military-like, right? They don't just bring some guy in off the street, right, with a record handling people's records, right? Like, it's ridiculous to think. And a lot of the people, as we talked about before, that are working for Equifax work on the IT side because, again, it goes back to the fact that it's an algorithm, and that is that is the fuel of the vehicle. So they don't have guys in there that are single-handedly reviewing disputes and removing accounts. There would be no autonomy like that. And if it was that compromisable, I mean, it would. I mean, this is turning into how to dispel a scam and credit repair conversation. But
that is true.
I mean, whatever the case, I mean, it's just that's absurd, right? That's absurd. I mean, there's just so many ways it's absurd. It's just blatantly absurd. But there's just no way. You know what I mean? There's just no way. It's just more of a gimmick, right? It's more of a way to pitch to the individual. Look, I found a shortcut. I got a guy behind me. You won't ever talk to him, but trust me, he works for Equifax and he's there pushing buttons. Like, that's not even how it works, man. It's crazy.
Let me get to these. Let me get to these questions on Instagram. I mean, on YouTube. Okay, someone from October 2019. Oh, the late payment on Dodge. The person who had the late payment, his credit score was 722 to a 630 credit score. So I don't know where you're getting those numbers from.
Yeah, but hold on. Stop there. Because that sounds like a Credit Karma adjustment. Was that Credit Karma? Ask him if that's from Credit Karma.
That's what I was about to say. Dodge, make sure that you're not monitoring your credit on Credit Karma.
I mean, your score is going to drop, but that's a 100-point drop. I mean, that seems aggressive to me. I may be wrong, but that sounds like a Credit Karma scoring drop, which is much more volatile and much more unrealistic than a typical standing scoring model. So Yeah, the drop is real. Like, obviously, if you're going to go late on an account, even if you're co-signing it, it's going to be real. But it sounds more like in reality, if it's a normal build-out file, you're looking more like 50 points, not 110 points. That's crazy.
That's crazy. Because it's also, but could it be because it's a new debt that the credit scores go down harder than a debt that had you been paying for 5 years?
No, because if it's a loan, no, because they bake into when you first open up a loan, right? Any loan, personal loan, school loan, not so much school loans, but personal loan, auto loan, etc.
Yeah.
You lose points at first. You lose like 10 points.
Correct.
10, 12 points, depending on the bureau, depending on the formula, depending on the motto, etc. After you make the first 2 or 3 payments, you immediately get those points back, and then a little bit. And then that is the extent of your scoring benefit from that loan. When you pay that loan off at the end, you may lose a couple points, but they were the points that you got a couple extra after you made those first 3 payments. So it's really just an equalizer. There's nothing really you get other than age to your report that comes actively out of a loan. It just doesn't. Now, granted, if you make a late payment, you are going to be trashed, and you're going to get torched. But they bake into it, right, that you're going to pay. That's why you see that adjustment when it reports, and you get that correction after 3 payments, and right, with a little bit of icing on the end, which again comes off when you pay it off at the end. So 100 points is excessive. Okay, the only time 100 points would apply on a 30-day late on an active account, whether it's your largest account, if the files are very, very thin, right? Correct. There's not any history to count up. But I don't think that's the case here because this guy co-signed on the loan. So my guess is that that's Credit Karma he's using. Yeah. If he's using a typical scoring model, chances are he's dropping from 720 down to 650, right? 660, correct, something like that. Which again, still is the difference between it's a tremendous difference in your financing costs, right? Correct. So, and it's a problem because now you have a fresh 30 and you look like you're being pressured, which is a problem from a lending capacity.
Don't monitor your credit on Credit Karma. Don't do it.
I mean, look, Credit Karma is good. Credit Karma is good about aligning people with actual credit. You know what I mean?
Correct.
If they're setting you up with credit products, it can be helpful. And it's not terrible with the alerts,
Well, the reason why I say, because people who start credit repair with us, they panic when their credit drops, and it's annoying. You know how annoying that is. Where are you monitoring your credit?
Well,
and they question us.
Yeah, but I don't mean to interrupt you, but I don't want to lose this thought. This is the reason why. Because what happens is, going back like 5-6 years, Credit Check Total was like the popular source, right, of credit monitoring. That's what everybody used. And the one thing that Credit Check Total did back then, for anybody that was around back then doing this, is that when you put accounts in dispute, it would give you the points, right? As if those accounts weren't on the report anymore. So you put an account in dispute, it was if the account wasn't on the report anymore. Well, what Credit Karma does is the exact opposite. So, for instance, when you put accounts in dispute on Credit Karma, the score dumps as if those accounts are now causing more issues. So then what ends up happening is when it comes out of dispute, you'll recoup those points plus any points that you may have gotten from the removals. So the client jump and the scoring spikes are so volatile, right? Because it's not tied to a typical formula that you would use in standard credit, right? Like there's FICO-based formulas, which are for mortgage-related stuff, right? There's Beacon-related formulas that are related to auto loans. There's credit card-related, scoring models, and they're all based and weighted in favor of those particular products of credit, right?
Correct.
Credit Karma doesn't have any of that. It's a general formula, which is why you see these swings that are so hellacious in either direction with absolutely no justification, right? With no justification or clarification or explanation whatsoever. And then it leaves people guessing. So here's the problem, right? Is that I think last I read, Credit Karma has I want to say close to 200 million people that are members or subscribers to Credit Karma because it's free, right?
It's free,
some ridiculous number like that last I heard, right?
Dang.
So now all you've done though is confuse 200 million people because you found a site that not only doesn't show all 3 bureaus, but uses a formula you won't ever see in any product of credit, right?
So you understand? When they mean you're not going to see of any product of credit, that means you're not going to see any product where they're going to run your credit as like a commercial bank. Is that correct?
I'm saying, like I was saying earlier, when you go for a mortgage, okay, there's so many different scoring formulas. Okay. Like Experian is a FICO-based formula. That means that model that you see on Experian.com, those scores should be very comparable to what you would see if you went for a mortgage. It's a FICO-based formula, okay? Which means that it's a mortgage-based formula. There are Beacon. If you've ever gone on MyFICO, or Experian actually does it too. They do an auto. If you pay extra, they'll give you an auto score and they'll generate a credit card score, which are related to a Beacon-related scoring model, which is the auto loans. And then for credit cards, it's an alternative formula. I don't remember what the name of it is. But the point I'm trying to make is the formula that's used for Credit Karma doesn't apply to any of them. You understand what I mean? So there's nothing that formula that is used. It's a general formula that the scoring from that formula wouldn't tie back to any type of credit you would apply for. So that score won't ever be exacted in any other credit you apply for. So it's why we constantly see, not so much now because people have become a little more privy to it, but it's why we constantly see people say, well, why is my score so much different on Credit Karma? Well, because the weight distribution of where everything stands within the context and the structure of the formula is totally different than the ones that get used widely, like the FICO, like the Beacon, like all the other ones, right? Correct. So it just ends up being such a calamity from a scoring perspective, a calamity of mess that ends up being problematic, that it's just better not having the client use it because it only confuses things, you know? And it confuses things greatly. I always say, listen, it's great for putting people together with credit. Outside of that, stay away. Stay away until we're done. Because when we're done, when your credit report is 100% clean and there's no negative accounts on there, there's not any formula that really is going to deviate greatly from the other. So your scores are going to rest. Whatever the type of formula it is, whatever type of credit you're going for, they're all going to rest roughly in the same area, right? Correct. It's when you have negative accounts, any negative accounts on there, that you're going to see the deviation fluctuate among the different models, specifically FICO versus, whatever Credit Karma uses, or the Beacon against the FICO, et cetera, because they're putting different weight on different elements, including negative accounts and types of negative accounts and such. So it can get very confusing, and without getting too confusing,
we'll have a video just on different credit monitorings. How about that? You let me know if y'all want to learn about that. But Credit Karma, like John says, you could use it for certain things, but for others, it's not even worth it. Especially doing credit repair, because they're only going to confuse you during the credit repair process.
And here's the kicker, by the way. Here's the kicker. Equifax offers their own free site. It's called myequifax.com. TransUnion has their own free site. It's the dispute.transunion.com where you can access your report. And Experian has a completely free report. So if the excuse, which we hear all the time, is it's free, yeah, it's free, but it's confusing you. The score is just a lagging indicator, okay? The score is not a leading indicator of a report. You can have a 640 credit score with $10,000 in open collections, and you're not getting an FHA loan, okay? Because you exceed the $2,500. You're either going to have to shell out the extra $10,000 to close them, you're going to have to get them removed, and just because you meet the scoring threshold doesn't mean anything. The point I'm trying to make is just, it ends up – look, I think that Credit Karma should just not be utilized, right? Like it ends up being a problem, and I just think that ultimately it ends up being something that should not be utilized at all if it can be avoided.
This is, even if they use the $99 do-it-yourself credit repair system, they shouldn't use it.
Look, again, working in the best interest of the individual and knowing how much confusion it drums up, I don't think so, because I think it would just cause confusion with all the swings and the unexplainable swings that I can explain, but they wouldn't be able to understand, right?
Correct.
People don't know why scores drop because they don't work in this business. So why would you put them into a situation where the swings are so volatile based on nothing? They're going to be losing their minds. It doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
I mean, it would,
and they
it would
do
just
lose
be,
their minds.
It would add more stress to an otherwise straight line, right? And if you don't need that stress, why would you do it? So I would say avoid it until after you're done, and then after you're done, knock yourself out, because all the scores, once all the reports are clean and everything's there, it doesn't matter what model you use, they're all going to be in the same general vicinity.
Correct. Okay, are we done with that? I mean, we could probably go back to it, but let me just go a little bit more to these. Dodge. He's trying to. I'm trying to buy a house in March, April. Can't even touch my credit cards. He has large limits because of the utilization will drop it further. But yeah, Dodge, Don't go by Credit Karma. If anything, go to Experian.com.
Well, but for the record though, if he's working off Credit Karma, which I didn't hear him affirm or deny, but if he is working off of Credit Karma, that's also going to fluctuate even greater. Like if you take, you should only see, even with high limit cards, doesn't matter. It's all the same ratio that gets applied. From zero usage all the way up to maxed out should only be a 30 to 40 point swing. It shouldn't be like 70 or 80 points. So, I mean, if you're trying to buy a house in March or April or whatever, and everything else looks good on your report, you shouldn't be sucking wind because you don't want to use your cards because you think somehow that's going to swing you 80 points. It doesn't work like that.
Correct.
The person the average fluctuation that you will see on the extremes is 0 to 30 or 40 points. And I say 30 or 40 because somebody that has a very thin file is going to swing more volatilely and they're going to have slippage and they may get up to 40. Somebody that has a more developed file isn't going to have the same fluctuation. It would be 30, 35 points. That is the extreme you see. It's not any different than that. So, I mean, if you're seeing more of a swing, an unnatural swing from Credit Karma, then this is why I say stop using it because it's not doing you any good. And if it has you sitting there not using your credit cards because you're concerned you're holding out for 2 months, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Okay, Dodge. Listen, Dodge, if you want me to review your credit file through Experian.com, which is the website that we use, let me just... Dodge. Let me just answer him back. Or he's probably watching. We got a bunch of people there. But listen, my email, GizzyCredit at GizzyCredit.com. We'll answer your questions. We'll review your file. If you only have one late payment account on that new car that you purchased, which was that you co-signed on, we can help you with that. Okay. So I have another question, John. For an auto loan, remove her credit report. Oh. Okay, and what support your website? Answer. I asked a third-party creditor to send me proof of debt with my signature because I denied the account. Account is 4 years old.
You understand the way you said that's confusing, right?
Yeah. I asked a third-party collection. Well, let me just put it in my words, right? I asked a third-party collection to send me proof of debt with my signature.
They asked for a debt validation.
They asked for debt validation. Fine. Yes.
Okay.
Because I denied the account is 4 years old.
They denied the age of the account? Is that what they're saying?
No, because he says, because I denied the account is 4 years old. I guess.
That doesn't make any sense because it has to be on there if they reported it. Somebody had to have opened it.
Well, I'm pretty sure he disputed it, and he says that he.
He denied it, but that's beautiful. I deny. So, but the fact of the matter is that. From a legal perspective, all that the creditor needs to provide you is what they have as far as validating and furnishing where they're basing their reporting from. Again, this is another beautiful credit board myth.
Correct.
That there's some wedding signature in 2020, right, that they need to produce. Where is there any weddings anymore? Has anybody taken a loan out that's listening to this right now where they've actually wedding to papers other than a mortgage? Correct. Because I know I haven't. Everything gets done electronically now. Everything. So there's no wedding. So they don't have to provide you any kind of wedding. That's ridiculous. And the reality of the situation is that the creditor literally by doing that, like let's just say you asked them, it was a collection and you asked them for some sort of wedding signature, which again is ridiculous. But whatever the case may be, somebody told you that, so you followed through with it. So when you requested that, all they sent you and all they're required by law to send you is a copy of the debt that they obtained as a release, and included with that will be the application for the credit. Normally, it'll have the bank account information that the payments were made up to that point. Along with that will also be any statements that were accrued if it's a credit card or if it's some sort of another auto loan, like an auto loan or something of that sort. Outside of it, they'll have other ways of verifying, maybe through IP and things like that they can produce. Now, they're going to send you the low-hanging fruit. They'll send you something basic. If it's a credit card, they'll send you like 2 years worth of statements, right? And then if you try to challenge them and go to court, they'll bring it all to court. And that's the way they do it. And that's just a fact because we've had to walk clients through court. And it's exactly what they do, and it's exactly how they do it. So, thinking that they're not going to have it, unfortunately, is not a reality. There are situations where they don't have it, and you won't see them respond, and they'll remove it, right? Like if you send a debt validation and they send you back some trash, that is very vague, other than like a letter that says we've decided to remove it, because they'll come back and say that. If you know what you're doing,
that's true.
They'll send a letter that said, listen, we reviewed your dispute, or we reviewed your validation, and we've chosen to remove the account from the credit report. They have it, which more than likely they do. And if it's more than likely a typical standard debt, like, if it's a charge off from one of the big banks, Bank of America, Capital One, et cetera, down the line, when they send these packages over, there are tens of thousands of other charge offs that are with that. Okay, there's a process there, and it's not a sloppy one. It's a very organized process. With that comes the paperwork, the assignments of debt, so on and so forth. Included with that, the originating creditor knows what the purchasing creditor or collection company needs to have for it to hold up in law. Otherwise, what would be the purpose of them purchasing it, right?
Yep.
I mean, that would be crazy. So to think that somehow you're going to catch them on that front, the chances are in a very small, very, very, very small scenario. And then you get into a legal argument, right? So the reality is you could take them to court, but does that do anything for your credit report? Does nothing. So now you're talking about monetary damages for something you just want to get your credit clean, and more than likely you don't even want to hire an attorney. So why not go down the route where you can actually clean your credit, right? And not get into a legal argument for something you don't intend on practicing. Just doesn't make sense. Not logical.
Okay. Another person from YouTube, Blondologist. By the way, went through my first round and one of my accounts was deleted. He purchased the system, he says. He also asked for the email for support, which is support@creditlife.us. Again, when you go through the purchasing process, and I'm going to put all that information in the body of this text once we're done, so you guys could go ahead and purchase it. Okay, so Goddess has a question, had something to say. My friend was doing my credit repair. She had a lot of stuff removed, but she didn't complete my repair. How long should I wait to complete the repairs myself? I don't know what letters she used.
So I mean, there's no need to wait. I wouldn't understand the argument behind why you would need to wait in between. So unfortunately, I don't. It's hard for me to give advice because I don't know how it was disputed.
Correct. But like rule of thumb, right? You can't have two people disputing on your file.
No. But she said, if I heard you correctly, I believe she said her friend stopped.
She stopped.
And didn't finish.
Yes.
So if she stopped, then you can pick right back up. I mean, there's no real necessity to wait. I mean, there's no cooling. Excuse me. There's no cooling period that you need to let it thaw out. The problem comes into play when you go from company to company to company to company, right? And you're just banging on it for 2-3 years at a pop, and you're getting nowhere, right? You're getting no progress, making absolutely no headway whatsoever. And that's when you start running into a problem where, look, you got to step off for a little bit. You got to let it breathe. If you're not doing it right, you don't know what you're doing, then they're the kinds of situations. But that doesn't sound like what occurred here. So I wouldn't see any logical reason why you need to wait outside of her, completing. You're right, though. You can't have two people work on it at the same time. So, if she is still working on it, obviously you'd have to wait till she's done or stops. But if she is done, you shouldn't have a problem picking right back up.
Okay. So Anthony, the person who did the validation letter, says they just sent a ledger with the account, no contract.
Yeah, I don't understand what you mean, a ledger.
I guess they sent, what you talked about. They sent you,
No, I mean, but if he's saying a ledger, if there's an accounting of I'd have to understand what that means. I mean, that's a broad term. A ledger is typically just an accounting of it, and I don't know how you account for an account. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, the payment history, they send you 2 years of payments.
If it's if he's saying that there's a ledger of all the payments that were made over a 2-year period of time or something, just all that ledger shows is all the payments that are made on the account.
Yeah.
Then he's toast because they have an account to draw it back to, and the chances are that the account is in his name, and they have access to all of that.
Okay.
When you, technically speaking, anybody can look this up. When you pay an account, any kind of account, this is a technicality, by the way. If you were to pay your mother's loan out of your bank account, okay, and she goes bad on it, in theory, that bank can come after you since you've taken an interest in it by paying out of your personal bank account. You guys can look that up when we get off. Now, they don't typically exercise on that, but that's the reality of it. They can if they wanted to and fight it in court if they really wanted to. So the reality is, in this case, I'm guessing they sent a breakdown of all the payments that were made by this particular individual, and maybe he's disputing the validity, and they're basically coming back and saying, listen, I don't know how much more valid you want this to be. You paid with your bank account, and you made 12 consecutive payments. How are you disputing the validity of the debt when you made 12 payments, right?
Yes.
It's illogical. It doesn't make any sense. You make 12 payments, and then you decide on the 13th payment, you know what, I want to turn around and question why I was paying it in the first place, but you made 12 payments. Can you imagine going in front of a judge and saying that? That would be crazy.
Yes, very crazy. Okay. Let's go. People are going to purchase the system. So is it good to buy trade lines? I mean, it's good to buy trade lines. Once your credit is clean and you fix your own credit, you could buy some authorized users, or is the cheaper route if you know a family member or friend that can add you as an authorized user. You could get added to it once your credit is clean. I sometimes say, Jay, if it's a trade that's going to be for free, you can add it now during the credit repair process.
For sure. Yeah, if it's free.
If it's free.
If you have a friend, look, from the door, we always say, if you have a friend or a family member that you trust, that is good about their finances, right, that keeps their balances low and their limits high, do it immediately. Right? Just make sure that this individual you can trust, because if you add an authorized user and that individual either waxes out the card and completely yokes it all the way up to the max, or if they go late on it, that hurts you the same way it helps you. It's a double-edged sword. So in essence, that individual is trusting you by adding you, but you're trusting them that they're actually going to do their part, right? That they have been doing, because it can hurt you just as badly in the other direction. So, if you do have somebody that you know that you can trust, that is obviously the path of least resistance, right?
All right.
To have them add you, and you could do that effective immediately. Now, if you're paying for them, because they are not cheap under any stretch of the imagination,
no,
that you need to be very tactical about adding them and when to add them. And you need to add them right before the report's about to be clean. And if you're set up with a good company, or you have somebody guiding you in the right direction, you'll know when that is, and you can add them to do your best to try and coordinate them reporting with right around within 10 days or so to a week of when the report's going to be done, so you can just hit the ground running on whatever type of financing you're trying to walk out on after that.
Very true. That's true. Okay. I have someone else who says, I feel they were using humans. I feel it will be easier to do the credit repair. Sick of these robots. Well,
you know what? But you know what? That's why, though. Right? Think about if you added a human element, an emotional element to the situation. And some woman writes in this story, which could be completely valid, right? She's a single mother. She's got a bunch of kids, right? She's working her face off. She works 20 hours a day. She needs her credit so that she can provide. I'd cave, right? I'd be like, you got it, right? Think how many emotional stories charged. So people wouldn't dispute naturally. They'd be sending Christmas letters. You know what I mean? Like, asking for things like that, and it's, as a human, we're emotional beings. It'd be very difficult to say no. I mean, I know I would have trouble doing. I don't know about anybody else, but I guarantee that's why, though, right? Not only because it's efficient with the algorithms, but more importantly because there's an emotional element that robots don't have, or algorithms, computer software, and coding systems don't have, right?
Correct.
So you don't even have to entertain that.
Well, that's like sending a goodwill letter.
Yeah, come on, that's
well, that's what Dodge said, that he's been sending goodwill letters.
Listen, you're gonna be sending those goodwill letters for the next 20 years.
But that's another thing that people don't know, is that they think that a goodwill letter is gonna work.
Listen, here's what the goodwill letter's for, right? Okay. Just so everybody understands, because this is another credit board special.
Yes.
I mean, we should make one. Let's list all the best credit board nonsense, one at a time, and just kind of waste an hour on it.
Yeah, laugh.
But the goodwill letters are typically designed. Let's say you had going back, I don't know why Capital One always comes up with these things, but let's say you had a Capital One account for 10 years, and 1 month you went late out of those 10 years, right? You showed nothing but exceptional pay history over that period of time. You basically go back and plead with them, be like, listen, in that goodwill letter, listen, it's been 10 years. I haven't been late. Do you mind giving me a courtesy in this particular case, because I missed my payment here or there? And a human does read it, And a human does process it in those cases, and they're obviously going to be sympathetic because you are a 10-year client, and they know that in a credit card environment, it's very difficult to keep people for 10 years, right? Or even 7 years, and they know that retention is important to them, and they make those exceptions for consumers. It's not meant, which I've seen, for somebody that opened a Capital One account 12 months ago and has been late 2 times. Okay, that is not what a goodwill letter is for. Number one, it's not meant for multiple instances because then that's just taking advantage of it. Number two, it's not meant to be done as a parachute for people that just don't, whether they can't or don't pay their bills on time. You know what I mean? Because then they'd have to send it out to everybody. So the reality is it's meant on very nuanced situations that were spread. Like, again, another example, if you had a mortgage for 15 years, same scenario, right? You went late on your 15th year. It's another example where you send a goodwill letter in, right? Things like that, where like the lender is going to be sympathetic to you because you have a long-standing relationship with them and they want to help you, right? Not because you're somebody just showed up, you went late, and you're trying to figure out a way to game the system. It just doesn't work like that.
But if you have 3 to 4 lates, I mean, that's not going to work.
Of course, it's not going to work on 2 late. It's not. It's going to work on 1 late, okay? And it's in a very long period of time, and that's it. 2, 3 lates is not a reality. It's a goodwill. I mean, it's literally pleading with them to be generous to you. I mean, that's why you've seen Discover now has, I think they have some kind of a program where, like, if you go late, they'll remove one of them from you or something like that.
Yes, they got commercials about it.
Yeah, they got out in front of that, right? But nobody followed, if you notice. Correct. Nobody followed that. They thought they were doing something revolutionary with that, right? Nobody followed. So either
they probably had to hire a whole other section, Discover, just for that. They probably lost money.
Yeah, but all they do is credit cards, and you know what they're doing now? They're trying to steal Capital One's business. So it's a way for them to do that, right? That's why they got into that. The point I'm trying to make is they thought they were doing something revolutionary that maybe people were going to catch on to, and nobody did. But in essence, what it eventually, they've been trying to pine for Capital One's business little by little over the last 5 years. And now they're, basically a direct competitor of Capital One, right? They do the alternative stuff now.
Correct. They do. But they still have a high interest rate. They'll give you 12 months, 0%. But once that interest rate hits.
No, that's what I'm saying. They went from a creditor that was in their own lane for a very long time to somebody woke up and said, I want to steal Capital One's market share or a big chunk of it. And they've been going after aggressively, trying to compete in that alternative credit. Let's lend out more money. Let's figure out a way to deal with credit imperfections, et cetera. You know what I mean? And that's how they do it. But to go back to the original question, no. Goodwill, no. Unless this is a scenario I explained.
Okay. I gotta cut this video up and put on the goodwill if it works or not. Okay, Michael had the same thing. Remember I told you about the LexisNexis and Innovis? And Michael said that plan definitely doesn't work. I got Innovis to take off all my lates from student loans, but the 3 main bureaus are fighting me so hard, shaking my head. So it didn't work. Oh, damn, John hung up. Hold up. Let me call John again. John is mad fun, bro. You learn so much with John. John's the man. Let me give him a call again.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. 2.
Let me see. John called. John better had. We kicked this off. Okay, John better had charged his phone. You see, I charged my phone at the same time that I'm speaking to you guys, because it's the best way to do things. And no, he's not calling me, so let me call him back. But pretty soon I'll be more legit. And
automatic voice message system. 2, 6.
Yeah, John probably didn't know that he's been talking for over an hour 32 minutes. And the phone's not going through, or he's probably getting a whole bunch of text messages, emails.
Automatic voice.
Yeah, well, if he calls me back, I'll get to you guys. But no, we've been on for some time already. The Innovis, freezing, all that stuff doesn't work. Thank you, Michael. Is it true that lates on closed credit card accounts affect my FICO score? Oh, there goes John. Hey, Jay.
Hey, sorry about that. My phone cut out.
Yeah, you charge your phone?
Yeah, so you left off with Michael said that the LexisNexis freeze doesn't work, which was not a shock. And that's where I got cut off.
Correct. LexisNexis and Innovis, that stuff doesn't work. And I have another question here. Is it possible to get Navient loans removed from my credit file? I know I still owe them, but the loans are 20 years old with interest and they are killing my score. I think that guy may qualify for a new plan for student loans.
Yeah, well, we talk about this all the time. Student loans can be removed. We remove them all the time.
And you could do them. You could remove them with the $99 system as well.
You can. Either we can do it. You can move with the $99 system. Both ways work, and both ways are effective. So yeah, without a doubt. That's just for everybody that's listening though, that has listened previously. He said he's now had them for 20 years. So that should go back to the things we've been kind of in our last cast we talked about. Garnishments and student loan lenders, specifically Department of Education, Navient, and the IRS, they work on their own rules, right? Typical creditor isn't chasing you for 20 years. There's just not a statute based around that. This guy's still getting chased around 20 years later for school loans, so they don't go away. And this gentleman obviously knows they don't go away. But yes, you can get them off for debt to income purposes, but you will still owe it even if you remove it from the credit report.
Correct. And you can remove them with the $99 system.
Yes, correct.
Yes. So, okay. Michael also says, is it true that late on closed credit card accounts affect my FICO score less than open accounts?
If it's so, by a hair, right? I mean, here's the only time you're really going to see any real significant adjustment, right? Let's say you had a late from a Capital One card in what year? We're in 2020. So let's say you had a late from a Capital One card in 2014 where it's getting ready to age off, okay? It's preparing to age off in the next 6 months or so. That one is obviously going to have less impact than one that you just went late on an active card a month ago, right? The further they get away from today, the less scoring pressure they hold. But broadly speaking, whether it's an open, closed, or account, and we talked about this in a previous one, trying to determine how much points for each one attributes is impossible. I can tell you it's impossible because I've worked on so many of these files and there's really no correlation. And I think among each bureau, it's a different amount. So trying to give some kind of a general answer to that, it's very, very difficult. So our whole goal when we go in and work on these files is just to take all the negative accounts off, eliminate the confusion altogether. Trying to pick and choose particular accounts and which one holds more weight than another it's a fool's game because there's no way to do it. There's just no way to do it, and you'll be driving yourself nuts trying to do it. So to answer the question, no, I think if there is some sort of a deviation, it may be if there's a recent late payment on an active account versus an old payment. I'm sorry, an old late payment on a closed account. There may be a deviation there, but if they're in relatively the same period of time, whether it's open or closed, we'll have no real legitimate difference as far as scoring is concerned.
Okay. All right. Cool. Let me check out my Instagram because I got a question on my Instagram today as well. The people on Instagram at GizzyCredit, you guys contact me all the time. Hey, question. How do I get a foreclosure off my credit that was a part of my divorce settlement?
One has nothing to do with the other. So if it was part of the divorce settlement, it has nothing to do with the other. You can send that divorce decree into the bureaus every day for the next 30 years, and they're going to ignore it. So it has nothing to do. That's a court order thing. That means legally, if your wife doesn't take care of it, obviously you can take her to court. As far as the bureaus are reporting, that the lender, when somebody lends you money, if they lend it to you and your wife at the same time, no matter what, if the court orders her to pay that on her own, if she doesn't, they can put her in jail however they want to determine it. But that doesn't mean the lender has to stop reporting because they're not bound by the terms that the court requires the couple to pay on, right? Because the terms of the mortgage were established before the divorce decree. So they're senior to them and they preempt them. So technically both of them are still responsible for it, whether or not she's supposed to pay and he's being damaged for it. It's very similar to the guy Dodge from earlier who co-signed a loan for somebody and they went late on him, right?
Correct.
I mean, in all theory, it's not his fault, but he's still getting impacted by it, right? Because it's a completely different set of parameters. So How do you remove it? You remove it like you remove any other account.
Correct.
Creditlife.us, or you let us remove it. So,
Correct.
I mean, that's how you do it. It's just that simple. I mean, if the question was looking for a direct path for us to provide to you over the podcast of exactly how to do it, unfortunately, that's not going to happen.
Great. No, this has been a great cast. We discussed the $99 do-it-yourself credit repair system. We will have more examples of the $99 system as far as, how many rounds it comes with. I mean, did we get into how many rounds the system comes with? Support we got with the support. We got a couple of people who purchased the system on the live chat. But no, is there anything else that you wanna chime into, John?
No, I mean, I think the good thing about these casts is that we kind of work in a lot of different directions. So we start with one general idea, and it kind of works in a lot of other areas. So it incorporates a lot of different topics into one topic, right? And I think we kind of hit the main topic with enough emphasis and gave enough detail. If people have further questions, obviously they can email you or the support or whatever. If they have specific questions about it or are interested in potentially purchasing it, or they can obviously go and purchase it at creditlife.us. It's right on, there's a purchase tab at the top to log in, and you can obviously peruse the site. There's blogs there. There's the forum page for the things we talked about. There's a free forum for people. It doesn't really get utilized because people that once people purchase this, they go right into the paid forum, which is the forum for the people that paid for the sites, which is where all the good stuff is. So there's two parts to the forum. One for the funding system and one for the credit repair system. Both have a free forum and both have a paid forum. So,
someone is asking, with the $99 system, can I only use it for just me, or can I use it on other people?
Look, I can't stop you from. This is what I was saying earlier. I mean, it was originally intended for consumers specifically, right? That's what it was for. But it's also made a lot of people a lot of money because they started turning it into a business because they saw that it works and the efficiency and everything like that. And then they start turning it into a business and use it for other people. Unfortunately, I can't stop you from helping other people with it. I can stop you from reselling it and offering it as your own, which we've had to protect our copyright a number of times because people have tried to
be
that.
Slick.
But what's that?
Try to be slick.
Yeah, trying to be slick constantly. But I can't stop you from helping other people with it. So that's certainly your right. And, if you decide to purchase it, you go for it. Can't stop it.
Correct. So my people, John is an expert. John, we've had as many as 35 people on the line today, watching. Facebook, YouTube seems to be where our people come from the most. Facebook is there, but again, Facebook, that's my personal page that I do my lives on. People already know that I do credit repair, but mostly the people that come that want their education, who are watching us, are on YouTube. So thank you, YouTube. Don't forget to like and share the video. John is an expert in getting people financing in all areas. If you guys are looking for a mortgage, you want us to review your credit, see if you're ready, definitely we can help you. We can even recommend a lender. Is that right, John?
Yeah, without a doubt. Understand, too, I think the one thing that we also like to impress, and you've heard on some of these casts you've done over the last week or two, we're huge on communication. So assuming you're not emailing us at 2 o'clock in the morning, when you send an email, you'll get a response back.
Correct.
Very, very quickly. You'll get a quote back very, very quickly. You're ready to proceed. We get ready to start quickly. I mean, we don't mess around. I mean, our process is efficient. If you decide you want us to do it, we move quick. We get the disputes out quick. We don't waste time. Our goal is to, obviously, the first step for clients, if we're doing it, is the credit. And then we the rewarding part for us, just like for you, is watching you achieve your goals, right? And us helping you get you to those goals and actually doing it to a point where we know that, somebody else couldn't get you in that type of a position, meaning the interest rate, the terms, et cetera, to a sustainable level that maybe you otherwise wouldn't have been able to achieve. So definitely, if you guys got any questions, definitely don't hesitate to reach out because, we're very transparent about everything. And that's a large part of us doing these casts in the first place.
Correct. Got some people who, thanks, guys. I'm buying the $99 system in a few weeks. All righty. Don't forget to take a stand for yourself. 2020 is here. We've been taking a stand for our customers for a very long time. Even when they get frustrated with their credit, even when things get verified, we still dispute, just doing all these casts. John has emailed me text me over the weekend. We finished this guy. We finished this guy. We finished that guy. There's going to be more videos of us doing testimonials and then those people telling us their stories of how they got started with us and the patience they needed to have, with their credit file. Is that right, John?
Yeah, that's for sure. But I think the key is not, these are just happening in real time, right? So this has been going on for a while. We just didn't think till recently to start doing this as a way to kind of open the door to transparency. So we kind of differentiate ourselves from the competition as far as exactly not just getting the client ready, but the extent that we actually go to, right? When you pull the curtain back and you see what goes on behind, the curtain and the degree of detail that we go to with these clients to preparing them, the ones you were talking about over the weekend, they were clients that we're working on now. We just got done, right? This guy just got done. This guy just got done. This guy just got done. Now they're going for this. They're going for this. You know what I mean? Like, this is every day.
Yes.
Right. This goes on all the time, all day, every day. I'm very grateful for it. But, we weren't doing it before. I don't know why we weren't doing it before, but we're doing it now. And this is going to be the approach going forward as a way to just be more transparent so people can really see the extent of the work that we do for clients and how well we position them, and how well we actually do at what we do. So, I think the more insight a client can have, consumer can have, the better decision that consumer can make rather than just relying on a marketing pitch or something. They can actually hear and breathe and experience the people that are working on it, understand the degree of knowledge and expertise in that field, and they can make a decision if that's the right fit for them.
That's very true. I got Michael who also said, how long generally does it take you guys to finish a profile that just have the student loans to get rid of?
It's tough to say. How many student loans, how long has it been worked on before? It's look, if you just want a general answer on 10 years and 10,000 clients almost, we typically like to tell people, give us 2 to 3 disputes is around the sweet spot. If it's a reasonable size file, if it's excessive or it's been grinded out the file, any number of things can happen. It can be more of a process. But look, don't misunderstand here. There's files that get done very, very quickly, and I know Gizzy's made videos on them or stuff. We're just trying not to push that, right? This isn't about us telling you and pushing the best case scenario every single time, right?
No.
We're trying to set an expectation here that's, listen, buy into our process. Buy into our process. If you buy into our process, we'll get you where you need to be. Now, whether that means us taking 3 days to get your file done, which happens, or 24 hours, which happens.
Yep.
We're not selling that on these podcasts because we don't want that to be the approach coming in, right? Because that's not 100% of the people doing that. If it was, then that would be all we'd be talking about. But we want to give a middle-of-the-road expectation so the client comes in prepared for a process, but knows that they're going to get where they need to be when it's all said and done. And they're going to do it with the right terms, with the right rate, with the right guidance, and with the right advice throughout, so that they get themselves in a sustainable position that can keep them out of any trouble in the future when it comes to managing these types of large purchases and rates, etc.
Correct. I just got a text message right now. And we've been doing this for so long. And someone in 630 area code, that's Illinois. Hello, do you do credit repair? Yes, we do. We're just telling him that we're live. Actually, John just... now that all negative are removed, no public record, what's next? So a customer that we got done, John, that you sent me a text over the weekend, John, he says all negatives are removed and no more public records or derogatory. What's next?
Oh, is this John Michael?
John Michael, yes, from Louisiana.
Okay. Right. So, I think his plan from the beginning was to get funding, but we just finished the file up. I think it was Thursday.
Yes.
Last week we just finished it up, so now we got a couple inquiries we're going to kick off, and then we're going to kind of set free. We're going to start knocking out the final goal. But we just finished Thursday, so from here on out, then we're going to knock out a couple of these inquiries, which aren't many, but there's a couple, and then we're going to start moving towards the financing stage. John Michael, you should, if you're listening in, any one of these days, if you want to do one of the testimonials, I think you need to do one of the testimonials.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. If you wanted to do a testimonial, let me know, because we'd love to have you on to talk about your experience with us too. Because it seems like you listen in, which we appreciate. So we'd love to have you on one time, maybe to explain yours. Open up that door. I know you just finished, so it might be nice and fresh. But that's
and he's one of these people that was constantly, emailing us, asking questions and all that stuff. And we'll get back to him and all that stuff too. So yeah.
But every client is unique. Every client handles things differently. At the end of the day, he just wanted his stuff clean, and I get it. And we all want to get it clean for them, right? And now here we are with the good part of it. Now we're sitting in right now is that he's clean.
Yes.
And we're gonna finish the goal up for him, and he's gonna be good to go. And we're gonna knock out the goals we talked about originally, like he knows we're going to, and he's gonna be a very happy man when it's all said and done. I mean, I know he's happy now. He expressed all his gratitude, when it finished up, and he's been a good client. I mean, he's been on top of his stuff. Look, there's some clients that are on top of their stuff, and that's just how they handle their life, right? And I understand that some people just are naturally micromanagers, and I get that. I also get the emotional element of this, so I appreciate every approach that every client has. I'm just happy that we're coming through for any type of client. Much John Michael being one of them, and hopefully I want to do one of these videos with him. We haven't even asked him yet because it's been so recent. It's finished.
Correct. So more videos to come. Thank you, people, for watching. John got to go. John, thank you so much. Everybody give a clap for John. Always educating us. And as you can see, John has good intentions. He is for the consumer, and he's going to tell it like it is, and he's a straight shooter, okay? So when you email us, we do this every day. So we just send out emails, all right? All right, John. So thank you, man. Are we gonna do another one this week? Next week? I mean, we're gonna.
Yeah, I would think we're gonna do at least one more this week. I mean, it was today, Monday. So yeah, I would think we'd do at least one more this week. Maybe Wednesday, Thursday, if we can coordinate our schedules.
Correct. So make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you can see us when we come on live. So all right, John. I'll see you, man. And over 35 people today.
All right, sounds good.
All right, bro. Thanks.
Talk to you. Yep.
Bye-bye. My people, Kendra, what do a person do that have student loans for 10 years ago? You could dispute them if they're late or whatever. If you just want them removed, you could dispute them to remove them. So that's not a problem. SVA, great information always, guys. Thank you so much. See, a lot of people log on late, and you guys ask questions, which we don't mind. But now we've been rambling for almost 2 hours. All right. So what I'm going to do with these videos, and this year we are having more of these podcasts so that you guys can see who's helping you out on everything. And you guys already know you guys who are my subscribers. Also, the information, because each video has something that John talks about that you guys probably never thought of, like funding for real estate with credit cards, how that's not specifically the right way to go about it. He gave a breakdown of why that's not good to do it, so you guys have an understanding of how that works. But again, we're here for you guys. Again, GizzyCredit at GizzyCredit.com is my email. GizzyCredit.com is the website. You could text message me 973-440-8661. That's been my phone number for years. And again, thank you so much for liking, subscribing, and sharing the content. More people will educated by us. And I just want to thank you guys for just being here and letting us do our thing with you guys. So before we leave, all right, what we got here? That's my theme song. Alrighty. I'm having too much fun with these live guys, y'all. Anyways, bendiciones to everybody. Have a good night. See you probably Wednesday. All right. Thank you so much. See you later. Oh. Don't get scammed.